The incident happened in the summer of 1998. Last summer, where it wasn't just Dad and me. I was 7 years old and, like all 7-year-olds, had to come up with interesting ways to entertain myself. Through the 6-week break, whenever parents were too busy to take me to the park or some other child-distracting place, one of the games I devised myself that summer was Toilet Ghosts. The rules of the game were simple. Throughout the summer, I was going to make my family, Mom, Dad, and Grandma, believe that our bathroom was haunted. My room was right next to the bathroom. For those unfamiliar with the layouts of industrial-era terraced houses in the UK, it might help to know that in most the lavatory and shower bathtub share a space. The idea for Toilet Ghosts came to me when I was looking for something under my bed. That's when I found the hole. It was the sound of Dad grunting that alerted me to it. I was lining up army men ready to shoot with my Nerf gun when I realized the sounds of straining coming through the old walls were much clearer under the bed than they should have been. I was facing away from the war at the time, so I looked behind me towards where I knew the bathroom was. Down by my left foot there was a section of wall missing, a perfect circle, roughly the diameter of a tennis ball. Now the time in adults I realized it was where the toilets had been at one point before a previous occupant decided to rearrange the plumbing. They'd done a rushed job, which is why instead of filling the hole properly they'd opted to file down the ceramic pipe on either side of the wall and plug up the gap with a loose-fitting half-brick. A half-brick my parents had just decided to paint over. A half-brick that came loose easily in my tiny hands. My memories of the first time I appeared through the mystery hole as I initially thought of it are almost as crystal clear as the last. The other side of the hole was at the base of the bathroom sink behind where my mum kept the toilet brush and various bathroom cleaning products Dad had no idea how to use. From my vantage point I could see almost the whole bathroom. In the dim light cast from the narrow porthole-style window on the opposite wall I had a full view of the glistening off-white tiles, drab moor wallpaper, and of course the shower. The toilet was about a foot to the right of the hole, so I couldn't see much of Dad's foot as ankles and toes. I watched his foot tap for a few minutes while he strained, holding my hand over my mouth to silence the gleeful chuckling or having a window into this private moment. He'd have no idea where it knocked for my screen. As I was watching, still delighting in the secrecy and stealthiness of it all, something long and thin and hairy unfilled over the lip of the shaved pipe, the holes of the end. My eyes widened in horror as another and another and another of the prickly limbs curled themselves around the rim, prodding and probing for my terrified features. My eyes bulged, hearts hammering against my ribs. Then before I could react, the very multi-limbed monstrosity lunged at me. "I'll get it off," I squealed and rolled out from under the bed. The errant spider flew from my face, scuttling away to soak in a distant corner of my bedroom. What few hairs were on my arms at that stage stood up when I heard my dad's echo cry from beneath the bed. Jesus Christ, what in God's name was that? "Susan. Susan, come to the bathroom." The deliciousness of the idea my 7-year-old mind put together at that moment excited me so much and a lump caught in my throat. Toilet Ghost was born. Game on. So that's the first half of the equation. You know about the hole and why I was looking down it. Now you need the other half. You know how I was spying on her and why. But what you still don't know about his grandma. This is where things stop getting so whimsical and innocent. It's been 23 years since I saw her, but I remember the ensemble more clearly than ever, even on my wedding day. When I tried to describe through tears the hell I'd been through between terms to the class, I didn't have a wide enough vocabulary to describe her accurately. I'd sputtered and sobbed words like a monster, nightmares, and dead people smell. Now I'm older, I can do the creature that stalked my 7th summer more justice. Her skin was clay-like, mottled, and almost gray, waxy to the touch and punchy in texture. She was huge with a waistline my 7-year-old self retold hers being big enough to eat 10 of me. She'd sit in my dad's recliner all day. Her many folds and bulges moving and shifting at tectonic speeds. Her face though. Her face was something else. Botox was huge in the 90s. If you've ever seen a bad Botox job, you'll have a rough idea of the odd way my grandma's gobbled, swollen features moved far too little when she talked. I didn't know what nerve damage was at the time. My parents' explanations didn't do much to dispel comparisons my brain made between her stiff features and the prosthetic creatures in the horror movie I'd given myself nightmares of the previous Christmas. What didn't help was her teeth. Her eyes were unsettling too, all sunken and dim and unmoving. But it was the bulky square canines and incisors that freaked me out so much that it took me a week to look her in the face over the dinner table. As I said, her teeth were square. Perfectly square. All of them, they ran uniformly along her cement gray gums. Each brilliant white postage stamp-sized chunk of enamel is placed at a purple right angle with its neighbors. I think the teeth freaked Mum and Dad out too. At least the snippets of conversation I stole from the echoes coming up the stairs seemed to suggest as such. I've never seen her take them out if I am, it was one that came up a lot and she didn't pack a tooth or an island. They don't even mention the nights before they smelled of wine and demand that I keep the volume low of a breakfast though. I don't have many memories of Grandma before she moved in. I don't remember Grandpa, the man whose death was the catalyst for her joining our household at all. She'd only been living with us a few months at the time. My father was the first unwilling toilet ghost contestant. I didn't know much about the elderly before she came to stay. I was glad to learn as I grew older that the bizarre and unsettling behavior I witnessed in summer had nothing to do with aging and everything to do with her. I was too inexperienced with them to know that Grandpa didn't act like other old people. She didn't really act like any people at all. She'd say odd things when I was alone in the living room with her. The conversations she and my mum and dad had were nonsensically enough. When I was lying awake in bed at night, I'd hear snippets of arguments between my parents, sentences like, "I know she's your mother Susan, but she's Barbie." Dawn's death broke her. "It's not healthy for Michael, he matters too. And the doctor said it's early onset, it's only going to get worse, not better," would drift up the stairs. Words and phrases like dementia, Lewy body syndrome and care home, the implications of which I wouldn't understand the entire was older. Things Grandma used to say to me without my parents around were way beyond the adult ramblings of her mind ravaged by a degenerative condition. Even as a kid, I knew the difference between confused nonsense and deliberate, malicious intent. "You know, if you tell anyone, I'll come for you." She'd hissed at me one afternoon while I was keeping myself occupied, with a Lego set on the carpet. "If you say a word, I'll come for you and suck out the jelly inside of your precious little eyes through a straw." Another example that my mind can't seem to shake is the morning when Mum had to pop up to the shops. I ended up hiding in my room, cowering under the duvet while she bellowed at me up the stairs. "I can take everything from your trembling little meat stack, your sniveling waste of skin, just be glad you're too small for anything to notice you." As you'd expect, I'd always burst into tears. Mum and Dad would calm me down, trying to soothe me by explaining ad infinitum that Grandma was old and that she didn't know what she was doing. By the time of the incident, I was terrified of her, not just because of the things she'd say directly to me either. The things I called her saying which she didn't know I was listening creeped me out just as much. "This one's no good, draws too much attention, can't move fast though noticed. Need more padding around the mouth parts, think the male and ants suspect the teeth. Will have to be the female, females past conventional beauty prime, can blend." These nonsensical ramblings were all pieces of a puzzle I still don't want to put together. I'm not sure I can stand back to take the whole picture once it's finished, not without snapping at least. Mum and Dad didn't believe my frantic recollections of the wild and dangerous words I'd overheard Grandma spouting. They definitely refused to accept my explanation for where the television smothered disappeared to. Was it anything other than a lie to get Grandma out of the house? Because I didn't just catch Grandma saying weird stuff, I caught her eating weird stuff too. It started with small, straight pieces of Lego, old coins she'd found down the back of the sofa, and any lighters or cigarettes Dad was foolish enough to leave around lying around. I watched her consume all of those at one point or another, whenever I was left alone in her care. The TV remote was the thing that took it too far for me. Kids are much more resilient than adults when it comes to the inexplicable untruths bubbling under the surface of reality. The remote was too much even for a 7-year-old. Mom and Dad had gone somewhere over for the evening. I was sitting cross-legged in front of the telly, trying to lose myself in robot wars and drown out the steady barrage of grotesque threats. We were 4 weeks into the summer by that point. As much as her words unnerved and rattled me, I'd survived enough of them to have built up something of tolerance. "Here, Runt, look at this." Something about her gravelly words was different. They always held undertones of poison. But this time, it wasn't the same snake by its venom as usual. This was a different toxicity, tainted nectar of the kind of theme rainforest plants use to lure unsuspecting hummingbirds into gaping morays. Taken by surprise, I lowered my guard and turned from the TV. Grandma was staring down at me from the chair. She was holding the TV remote in one hand, the gnarled nails of the other digging into the arm of Dad's chair. On anyone else's face, her shriveled eyes would have sparkled with sadistic malice to match the wide, perfectly symmetrical teeth of that smile. As it was, the dead orb stared at opposite corners of the room. It didn't matter. I knew when Grandma addressed me, that it was only the enamel locked in those granite-colored gums that mattered. "I'm not going to be around much longer, Runt," she sneered, words still dripping with Trojan malice. "You'll be pleased to hear that I'm sure you pathetic stain on your gene pool. Of all of them I've encountered, you're the worst." I could feel my bottom lip trembling. As usual, this only seemed to egg her on. I can't suffer the indignance of a pustule so undeserving of that skin, walking around this backwater cesspit, not knowing just how insignificant they actually are. Before I could start sobbing, before the fluttering in my lungs could evolve into full-blown panic, she lifted the TV remote. I screamed so loudly, that the neighbors on both sides yelled, "Keep that down, kin, under control." The lower half of her waxy face clicked and shifted. Her jaw extended slowly. The flesh made the groaning creaking sounds of rubber dragged across a bed of broken glass. For a full half a minute, it judged and protruded until her chin jutted out, a full foot from her neck. The inexplicable gaze from her teeth never left my screaming face as she lowered the remote into her gullet. The cement gums wriggled, puckering and closing the impossibly angular dentistry around her forearm, remote and all, independently of the rest of her motionless face. I continued bawling against the backdrop of neighborly complaints as the mouth within her mouth suckled and savored into her buried forearm. She pulled the limb out slowly, white teeth leaving deep and perfectly square imprints on her clay flash. Not that it would have made any difference to how fast I sprinted up the stairs to my room, but the chunky TV remote in her mucus-covered hand was gone. I refused to leave my room for a week. That was fine by my parents, they didn't believe me anyway and I was grounded as such. It was exactly 7 days from the remote that I plucked up the courage to, in my mind, get back at Grandma because at the end of the week when she got out of her chair and ascended the stairs to the bathroom for her weekly shower, I made a decision. Grandma was going to be the next unwilling toilet ghost contestant. I'll fully disclose here, I was 7 but I wasn't stupid. I'd seen enough daytime TV to know what a heart attack was and how you shouldn't shock old people because of it. I knew full well the risk of subjecting a lady as old as Grandma to the levels of jump-scared toilet ghost brought my parents. I have no shame in admitting I knew this. It's the first and probably only memory I have of deciding to willingly hurt another human being, but the heart attack was kind of the goal. Dad had gone to work a night shift leaving Mum and I alone with Grandma. I lay in wait by the hole listening to the stairs creak under the nightmarish woman's massive bulk. I didn't have any problems with stifled giggling over the invasion of primacy this time. My mind was focused, sharp. This round of toilet ghosts wasn't a friendly match. I never had the balls to play the game with Grandma. I'd had a lot more practice since my first round against that though. I'd perfected my ghost sounds now. I'd learned how to bend my moments and bounce my haunting whispers off the 10 or so inches of ceramic pipes so well that Mum nearly didn't get her trousers down in time more than once. "Come on, you freakish old coot." I muscled to myself as I heard the click and swing of the door opening. "Get nice and settled. I'm going to toilet ghost you so bad. You'll wish you never ate that remote." I had to try hard to not breathe too loud. The mix of anticipation, nerves and anger had me sucking up whole long falls through each nostril with every tense shift of my diaphragm. My throat filled with the acrid reek of bleach, and I always coughed right at the moment she stood in front of the hole while doing something for her at the bathroom sink. She stood for a full 5 minutes saying nothing and barely moving. I was about to toilet ghost him back at the Grandpa Dance arms when she took a few steps backward. The moment her lumbering naked form came into full view, the cocktail of emotions gave way to one singular overpowering and feeling. Terror. Pure unbridled terror. I was too scared to scream. I stared wide-eyed at you silently falling down my cheeks while I bit into my hands so hard I could taste the metallic warmth of open wounds. Grandma's head was empty. Blank voids were all that existed behind her lips and dials. With each quick step her head became more and more deflated. Until by the time she stood still all that existed above her punchy neck was a near-flat glass of skin. The nightmare I found myself in didn't give me time to process, as though it was already lining up the next traumatic mental image it took me years to repress. As I watched, praying that my whimpers were quiet enough to go unnoticed, Grandma's belly opened. A red horizontal line unzipped from her left to right flank. An equatorial wound perfectly aligned with the deep crater containing her belly button. The headless torso started to flap and wobble. Her mottled arms deflated. A wet sucking sound accompanies the slow decompression of each appendage. Then in a fluid motion the quivering torso that remained lifted at the belly slit. Something pushed it away, discarding the unwanted flaps of human skin like wet tissue paper. When the memories of the next few moments came flooding back to me last night, I puked for a solid hour. The thing that stepped out of my grandma's skin shivered. Its opaque, stone gray, gelatinous form pulsated until the residual leg arc left at its base from occupying its human shell had flattened. It heaved and rippled as it bloomed to its full height. The grotesque cylindrical body extended in pulsing spasms until it stood easily 8 feet tall. Its bulbous head rocked and swayed as it stretched long cramped muscles, the unspeakable anatomy realigning to support the weight of its true form. The head had no eyes, no nose, no features at all on its slick gray surface, save for one. The mouth, the wide square-toothed, impossibly perfectly angled of that damn mouth. Pools of glistening flab puckered around the brilliant white teeth. From somewhere deep in its throat, 3 long greenish tongs, each several inches in diameter, emerged to probe the air. They were several times the total length of the thing that had worn my grandma by the time they were fully extended. Each of the 3 appendages sets them on the task. One turned the shower on, and the 2 others began curling around my grandma's husk. The thing slithered around the room on its slug-like foot while the tongs got to work. A pang of disgust rose in my belly, nausea churning dangerously close to vomiting. I realized with growing terror that once a week, this blasphemy against the laws of reality had been emerging to clean my grandmother's skin. While I had been sleeping, it had scrubbed and scraped the only remains of the woman who had birthed my mother. The thought that this whole summer I'd been listening to the running wars on the other side of the wall while those 3 tongs defiled and preserved a human flesh suit became too much. I couldn't watch the thrashing greenish moorborn limbs any longer. I turned away from the hole, expelling everything I'd eaten that day onto the carpet under my bed. By the time I'd finished, I was spitting up nothing but flecks of bile. My chest ached, both from hailing and from the unstoppable pounding of my panicking heart. Shuddering, drawn by that morbid curiosity known only to children and sociopaths, I lifted my head and looked back through the hole. Then, staring back at me only 10 short inches away was a set of angular chalk-white teeth. I never heard Mom grow up the stairs so fast. She damn near threw the door of its hinges when she burst into the room. She'd try to yell above my screams to get through to me, but it was no good. I wouldn't stop screeching about Grandma in the bathroom, pointing at the wall and trying to claw my wires as far into her embrace as possible. I begged her to run. I begged her so hard my already hoarse throat started to burn. She didn't scoop me up, carry me downstairs and strapped me into the car. She didn't leave a trail of lighter fluid and threw a matcher on the letterbox she left. She didn't pick up Dad and drive us as far away from the house we burned down and the thing inside us as we possibly could. No, Mom did what all good moms do. She stood up, sat me on the bed, wiped my eyes, and told me she'd show me there was nothing to be afraid of. Then, she went into the bathroom. I hid under the duvet the moment I heard her scream. Thankfully, her dying pleas and the series of bangs, crashes, and organic ripping, squelching sounds that followed didn't last too long. The sands that followed that king cacophony was worse. I knew Dad wasn't going to be home until morning. After an hour or two, I decided that I had to look out from under the duvet. I'd almost managed to convince myself that I'd been asleep. This has been a nightmare. One glance at Mom's twitching silhouette in the doorway was enough to tell me how wrong I was. I was sobbing uncontrollably under the duvet as I heard her shambling over to the bed. I could feel her standing above me for what must have been hours. I could see daylight from the window outside piercing through the cheap bedding when she finally went down close to where my ear was. Remember, runt. If a word of this leaves your filthy parasite lips, we'll know. You can imagine the state that Dad found me in when he got back from the shift. You can imagine the state he was in when he learned Mom and Grandma had disappeared. They never found remains of either of them. By the time Dad got home, the thing had managed to clean the bathroom. I don't know what it did with Grandma's skin, but the flashbacks of that protruding jaw and square teeth puckered around a forearm gave me a solid guess. They found Mom's car by the coast. Eventually, they gave up looking for a body. I still remember the gentleman police officer consoling my crying father after informing him they had to assume Mom, overcome with grief over the dementia and taken Grandma so they could walk out into the sea together, swallowed up by the waves. And he was his grief. The rest of my life was exactly as you'd expect. Counseling and trauma therapy was a big part of it. I told everyone, especially Dad, what I'd seen. Nobody believed me, which is probably why I've been allowed to live so long. I was told by the army of doctors, therapists, counselors, and the like that it was a false memory created by my mind to cope with the horrific events that actually took place. For a few happy decades, I managed to believe that too. The truth of that night in my mind throughout my adult life has been what Mom had told me we were going to the coast and had been very upfront about what for. She'd tried to take me by force and even bitten me during her psychotic break. At some point I passed out from fear. Worrying she'd killed me in her adult state, she then drove off to the coast with Grandma without me. All was going well. After a rocky adolescence, in early 20s and 30 now and married, has stable employment, a home, a life, a nice, normal life. At least it was until last night. Because last night when we were watching a news segment about the UN Climate Crisis Summit, I saw them at the back of a crowd of suited dignitaries and politicians. A set of perfectly square, impossibly white teeth grinning from between punchy wax and lips. Pudgy wax and lips on a face that I recognized. A face that hadn't changed much to tour since 1998, aside from a slight graying of the skin and a new, angular smile. It was Mom. The memories came flooding back all at once. Like I said, I puked for an hour. Kath, my wife, was worried. As soon as I could stop retching, I explained it all to her. Grandma, Mom, that smile. The thing that wore both their skins. Kav's jaw dropped. I thank God she believes me, and that's unlike Mom. She's agreed to drive to the remotest place we can find. She's agreed to go off-grid with me. Agreed to hide away from the monster. She's never seen up close, but knows in her bones is real. Why does she believe me, you ask? Simple. The second I had collapsed into a sobbing heap at my story's climax, my phone buzzed. It was seeing the color drain from my face faster than she ever had that prompted the cat to snatch it from my hands. Her reaction was worse. I had to hold her for a solid 2 hours once I'd managed to stop her trying to barricade herself inside a kitchen cupboard. I'd received a picture message from a private nun there. It was a picture of Kath and me in our living room, taken from right outside the front window. That night, judging by our clothing, with a single sentence attached. We told you we'd know if you told, we won't. I don't think that's what sent her over the edge though. No. I think what sent her over the edge is what we also saw in that photo. Our living room runs from the front to the back of the house. If you looked in our front window, you could see our back garden through the sliding glass doors. What made convincing Kath so easy was that in the photo, you could clearly see a wide set of white square teeth layering at the back of our heads from the pitch-black garden. My eyes are burning. I've been sitting in front of this screen longer than I can remember. I don't know whether the memory lapses are from head trauma or sleep deprivation. Probably both. The cold light cringes my retina as the waterfall of numbers creates fatherless patterns on the LCD monitor. Aside from the microscopic beams of red that poke through the cracks between the planks nailed to the door, this screen is my only source of light. The room has no window. I'm incredibly grateful for this. I can't remember why. I sit alone with only the many shadows for company. Time has no meaning in this room. The passing of each second has become so diluted and warped that any attempt at measurement would be futile. Maybe I'm going mad. No. I know the reason. I've forgotten much, but I must not forget that. Dare I allow myself a glance? The thing stares at me from the glass container next to my desk. I must not stare back for too long. No matter how impossible it seems to achieve, I must move my focus back to the tumbling numbers. My gaunt face is reflected on the polished screen. The face and the reflection sneer at me, daring me to smash the container. I must not give in to temptation. We'll all die if I do. The veins in my neck throb. A crushing pain is building behind my frazzled eyes. Grunting with effort, I somehow manage to shift my attention back to the flickering screen. I know the thing won't be happy, but I have to ignore it. It's not my friend, despite how much it wants me to believe otherwise. From the screen, rows of numbers and statistics glare back at me, column upon column of irreconcilable data. I can't remember when I could last make sense of the cascade. I'm sure there's supposed to be meaning behind the army of algorithms. Somewhere in the numbers is the answer. I must have been here looking for it for days. Untold hours stuck in this cramped, boarded room. I long to smash through my makeshift barricade. The feel of the outside air on my face is a temptation almost as great as the constant urge to free the thing. I must not give in to temptation. We'll all die if I do. The descending numbers unfail in front of my burning pupils. I must make sense of them. Somehow, someway, I must. Another cramp runs through my thighs. In response, I adjust my position and crouch on the itchy office chair. I must ignore everything but the numbers. They're the only thing that matters. In the first days, I was obsessed with the smell. I tried everything to mask it, but human waste proved to be too powerful an odor. Eventually, I made peace with it. Then there were days I obsessed with the clumps of hair falling from my head. I tried everything to prevent it, but my resources were too limited. Eventually, I made peace with it. Then there were days I was obsessed with the thing. I've tried everything to prevent it, but its hypnotic gaze keeps pulling me back. It still beckons me. My mind's eye is constantly forced to that strange glow. I wish I wouldn't dwell on this. The light is maddening. Blue and orange, a light that has simultaneously two colors, is an impossible contradiction, yet there it is. The jewels whose flown drift independently of each other, yet at the same time, they're indistinguishable and intertwined. I can't remember a time that unearthly haze wasn't present in the darkest reaches of my conscience. I've only been here a few hours, but they feel like days. I can't remember what happened before. All that I have of the time before the room are fragments. I can't remember who put the thing into its glass box and attached it to the computer. Maybe it was the dead man in the corner. I wish I could remember who he was. Was he important to me? I'll never know. It's not important though, so I mustn't dwell on it. I must focus on the numbers. I scratch at an itch on my head. Ouch. There's an unpleasant pain at my fingertips. I slowly lower my hand from the patch of descending hair. The nails on my index and middle fingers have detached. They dangle on pus-soaked sinews, swinging in time to my tremble. I look at my other nails. Each chipped slab sits on a bed of greenish ooze. The skin around my fingertips has turned a mortician's grave. I can feel my screen-baked eyes widening. My worn pupils find themselves unable to move from the dangling keratin. As my trembles worsen, one of the nails wriggles free of the spider-web sinew. Its feather falls to the filthy floor, lost to the grime, like much of my hair. Despite the repulsion tying knots in my gut, I need to inspect this further. I splay my rotting fingers. The little revelation afforded by the flickering LCD display makes my analysis difficult. I squint, pulse rising. My remaining 8 nails bulge and jaunt back at me from the shadowy desk. My fingers are cold, numb almost. The few remaining ounces of sensation left have been taken by a tight dryness from the discolored skin around my fingertips. As this discoloration ascends my digits, it darkens further into gray. Before becoming a pungent mess of moldy greens and brown-purple bruising, this isn't happening. It can't be. Please, don't let this be real. The thing laughs as I come to the horrifying realization of what I have to do next. It's enjoying this. I gulp. My throat is dry and constricted. I would kill a man for a glass of water. Maybe that's why the man on the floor died all those years ago. Maybe we had water in those days and I killed him for the last drop. No, I don't think I did. I wouldn't do something like that. At least, I think I wouldn't. Do it. I start with the right hand. My tremble is all-encompassing now. I raise my shaking left, the gray flesh of the digits cracking as I close my grasp over my right ring finger. Lightning flashes of sharp blinding pain race up my right arm. I unscrew my eyes. The removed nail doesn't bleed. Please, don't let this be real. I don't want to do this. No man should have to do this. This isn't fair. Do it now. There's warm moisture descending with cliffs of my cheeks. The corners of my vision blur and ripple as I focus on the yellow nail protruding from my jerking finger. A thin trail of shining plasma trickles from one corner of the guard cuticle. A cold blanket of sweat drapes my brow. I can't do this. I won't do this. No. My left thumb and index finger find tight purchase. There's a lump growing in my stomach. I can feel the grazing warmth of bile climbing my throat. I really don't want to do this. Please don't make me do this. My nostrils flare. A sharp inhalation brings with it the clinging reek of human excrements. The bile climbs higher. The lump in my stomach doubles in size. My fingertips aren't the only numb part of me now. I can't stop myself. The yolky nail opens a floodgate of rotting fluid as I prise it from my finger. Pain breaks the silence and sensation. Fresh stabs assault my senses with each agonizing nanosecond. As the nail is peeled further back from the gray-green fingertip, strings of cyan ping and snap. Each brings with it a further jolt of lightning. Eventually, I reach the stage where I can no longer bend the stiff shell. The exposed nail bedding screams. The orphan nail hanging from its by a thread of skin. The bile is now nearly at my nostrils. Why have I done this? Why is this happening to me? Please make it stop. Finish it. I wrenched the dangling carapace from my not bleeding finger. The bile has finished its journey. The third lost nail clatters on the greasy dirty wood beneath me. It's followed by a torrent of vomit. Everything goes sideways. My diaphragm is contracting in agonizing spasms. The itchy office chair clatters on and rolls away from my feet into the darkness. The ground is grimy beneath my naked form. As I twitch and writhe in disgusted agony, my joints slide along a desert of unseen diseases. I dare not look at my hand. I can hear the thing cackling somewhere above me. I must ignore it. It's all costs. I have to finish with my hands and get back to the numbers. We must resist the urge to break the glass and smash the thing on the ground. I must not give in to temptation. I will all die if I do. There is scuttling in the darkness beyond my face. My burnt eyes are not yet accustomed to the gloom. They gaze outwards, limp and useless. Eventually, they manage to bring something into focus. A shelled creature is picking its way through the bog on the floor. Too long on 10, I twitch in the murkier abyss. Black beady eyes turn the tiny light available at these depths into twinkling novers. The wriggling mess of chitin and legs halts as it reaches my drained head. It stares at me, shuffling its mandibles. Lost are we? The cockroach has a deep voice. It is a dialect comprised of bass tones being dragged through a corpse grinder. Every syllable sends a knife of tension down my spine. Most of the people that find their way here are lost. I'm not lost. My lips feel chapped and crooked. I don't recognize the voice that escapes them. You got lost on your journey. The cockroach grinds and disagreements. You have to be lost to find your way here. You know that. Or have you forgotten? I can hear the mirthful chittering of mandibles scraping. I say nothing. You've been forgetting a lot of things lately, haven't you? You can't remember how you got here at all. Oh dear, you're in a bit of a pickle. By the end of the last sentence, my eardrums ached. The voice drills into my brain, scraping further into the psyche with every syllable. Do you want me to remind you? The queering antennae twitch in the night. My ears throb. My thoughts become clouded with sharp black spikes of sound. No, I want you to stop talking. Come on now, don't be silly. Its mandibles click together in a tut. How do you expect to find your way without any help? Now, you can see that up there. The veins in my eyes throb as I point them toward the glass that contains a thing. Yeah, so that's right. You came here to do something with it. Do you remember what it was? Each deep utterance cuts into my soul. The network of blood vessels around my ears bulges to bursting points. Please, stop. I feel my front teeth wobble as I beg through them. I just want this to end. The cockroach does not oblige. So I take it you don't remember. Oh dear. It seems that pickle was an understatement for your predicament. The insect forager tilts its tiny head, pairing it with me through the layering shadows. Please, I shriek. His wobbling has become too much. It scrapes at the insides of my skull until nothing is left but a simmering mess of severed nerves and liquidized gray matter. I beg the pain. My vision is filled with jagged black spikes. The pain isn't from me, old bean. It's from your fingernails. Twitching still, I look down at my hands. They're covered in murky brown grime and pus. 6 of my remaining fingernails lay in a gooey heap by my groin. The 7th is painfully ripped from its bed in my rotting thumb by another spasm as I stare. Why do I die in trying not to scream? See. The bloodshot orbs in my skull bulge at the sight of my mutilated digits. Panic to lungs, plea for oxygen. The fresh inhalation adds the sweet musk of decomposing flesh to the stent palate. I didn't do that. The words sound alien to my ears as they leave my throat. The mush in my skull starts to swim. The shadows darken. Remember, you have to smash the glass. Rattlesnake clicks emanate from the chitin plating on the beast's back. They writhe as they laugh at me through the bloom. There's another ringing in my ears. This time, it isn't painful. It's the ring caused by all the sounds in the world going out one by one. As long as you remember to smash the glass, you'll be right as rain. I roll onto my back. The black spikes multiply and converge into patches of misty fog. My eyes roll upwards. I get intermittent flashes of the ceiling. There's writing on it. Did I write about it? I can't remember. Just remember, smash the glass. The serrated coos of the malevolent insect are among the last things I hear. My jaw drops open. I can feel foam forming at the corners of my mouth. Smash. This last oscillating syllable echoes as the rest of the world dies. When I come to, I am crouched on the itchy office chair. I'm staring at the revolving numbers on the screen. I don't know how long I've been sitting here. It must have been weeks. I look at my hands. The plasma that covers my digits has only half coagulated. I had finals there once. There was a long time ago though. I can't remember exactly how long. I've known nothing except the numbers and the things since before recorded history. The flickering glare of the LCD screen blinds me. I say it has for millennia. I must find the pattern. The black numbers dance and dive. There's a crushing pain in my head. I mustn't think about the thing. It's calling me, whispering sweet nothings to my subconscious. I could smash the glass now and all of this. It would be so easy. I could smash the glass, then all of this would stop. No. I mustn't do that. No matter how tempting it is. I mustn't give in to temptation. We'll all die if I do. I squint at the blinking digits on the screen. Hold on for a second. I think I see something. Wait. It can't be. Is that a letter? The itchy office chair creaks as I lean further forward on my haunches, bringing my tired gaze closer. It is a letter. My heart rate accelerates. Beads of excited sweats form in every paw. Days spent searching and I finally found it. I'm sure the dead man in the corner would be so proud if he was still alive. Then again, maybe he wouldn't. Maybe he worked with the thing. That might be why he's dead. I don't know. I can't remember. The solitary letter just stares back at me. I raise both nailless hands to the sides of the screen. My green-grain knuckles turn white. The black plastic nearly buckled under my grip. It is a letter. Just one. A. The solitary character stuns amidst the swirling horde of numerical data. As my dry eyes dart across the glowing wasteland, a second appears. My rib cage aches from the furious jack-harrowing of vials and ventricles. 2 letters. This is it. The answer. A. Chapped lips widen into a broken smile as more and more letters appear until I'm left with a phrase. Quivering, I slowly sit back from the screen. The answer I have spent hours searching for fills in front of my eagerly awaiting gaze. Slaghead Sam's. I can hear the thing laughing. I have to ignore it. More riddles. More riddles and puzzles. The numbers taunt me as they dance around the nonsensical worse. Slaghead Sam's. The 13 cryptic letters start to hover above the pixels and perspex as I stare at them. There must be a meaning. There must be an answer. There has to be. I sink my face into my palms. I can feel warm salty prickles in the corners of my eyes. No. I must not give in. I have to remain composed. There must be an answer. Slaghead Sam's. My neck creaks. My aching head leaves clumps of hair behind in my hands. The thing continues to laugh at my misery. Echoing cackles infect my thoughts. I've had enough of the thing. It's mocked me for the last time. I have to destroy it. The glass box reflects the thin red light from the gaps between the boards. Many other things are also reflected in its surface, including a face. I assume it's my face. I can only assume this because it moves as I move. I don't recognize it well. I don't remember what my face looked like, but I do know it wasn't this face. This face is almost completely bald. The face has dry cracked lips that peel back to reveal bleeding gums and jagged loose teeth. It's a pasty and unhealthy cream color and it's covered in sweat and grime. The face seems to be locked in a bestial snarl. I don't remember what expressions I carried before I began my task. However, my instinct tells me this wasn't one of them. At least I hope it wasn't. The worst thing about the face that does not have my face is that it has no eyes. This would be bearable if they were missing in the conventional sense. Empty sockets of skin, arms and a quote is maddening as to the way the eyes of the face that do not my face are missing. I can see these eyes clearly. They're dry and bloodshot. It doesn't matter how clearly I can see them though. To my brain they're not there. When I try to look at them directly they swim in warp. If I gaze too long they expand and burn, the orbs and the reflection bubbling and melting. The mirrored face starts to contour but its broken mouth widens into a horrified scream. This can't be my face. Please don't let it be my face. I slowly raise my rotting hands to my cheeks. To my horror, the bald eyeless monster in the glass does the same. The thing shrieks with laughter at this. The blue-orange light swells and dances reveling in my misfortune. The thing has done this to me. I know that it has. It will pay for what it's done. I raise my decomposing hands, further cracking the skin on my knuckles as I ball them into fists. The eyeless gold features that are my reflection contour into a roar of hatred. This is something else reflected in the glass. It catches my eye before I bring down the manner of the hands. Letters. They hover millimeters above the polished surface, glaring at the mirrored computer screen, and a sea of backward numbers are the words. Smash the glass. It was not an answer in the numbers. It was a trick. A trap. A decoy planted by the thing. It wants me to smash the glass to remove it from its confinement. I must not do this. I must not give in to temptation. We'll all die if I do. My heart sinks as I turn back to the glaring LCD. Maybe there was never an answer in the numbers. There must be though. Why else would I be trapped in here with nothing but in computer or wires connecting it to the thing? My fists send a loud bang echoing around the cramped apartment. The screen judders violently from the impact of them slamming on the desk. My ribs and back shudder as I'm encapsulated by sobs. It's hopeless. Absolutely hopeless. There's nothing I can do. Maybe this isn't even a task designed with me in mind. Maybe it's a mission for the dead man slumped to the corner. He's wearing a lab coat after all. I'm a source besides my forehead. I need to open my eyes and get through this. Just persevere with the numbers. I have to let myself get distracted again. A pattern is in them somewhere. I know it. I have to will myself to carry on. Everything else depends on it. I slowly unstick my heavy eyelids. I don't think I can hold much longer. That's why I decided to write all this down. I don't know if the small input box on the screen goes anywhere. I hope it does. If you find this message, please do whatever you can to attract the origin. I don't know where I am. I don't know who I am. All I know is that I can't resist temptation. If I can't stop myself smashing that damn glass, the thing will get out and all of us will die. I must have taken over from the man in the corner. Someone needs to come and take over from me. Please, before it's too late for all of us.